In the early 1700s, our Antiguan forefathers were slaves. While their owners, the white English planters, lived lavishly on estates, the slaves lived in squalor, and for them, life was barbaric. In 1756, Moravian missionaries came to the island. They introduced the slaves to the Moravian message, and they taught them how to read and write in English. The Moravians were strong opponents of slavery, and they, along with the abolitionists in England and North America, relentlessly agitated for the slaves to be set free. In time, their efforts were effective, as the British Parliament passed an act which stipulated the slaves in their colonies were to be emancipated on August 1st, 1834. While it took time for this decree to be fully realized, it was not so in Antigua, as MacGregor, the governor of the colony, having consulted with the island's planters, decided that Antiguan slaves should be liberated immediately. On Emancipation Eve, July 31st, 1834, churches and chapels on the island were packed with slaves, who were on their knees awaiting the dawn of the new day. At midnight, the church bells pealed across the island. The freed slaves wept and embraced one another. Heaven joined in the celebration. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled across clear skies. God's pillar of fire was guiding them into the new era of their lives. There was untold rejoicing and a quiet sense of peace and calm as approximately 30,000 ex-slaves ventured out into an unknown future. The slaves in the southeastern part of Antigua had the privilege of receiving the official news several hours before the rest of the island. On that day, they were toiling in the fields when they received messages from the missionaries and planters asking them to assemble at the Grace Hill Moravian Church. They made their way to the church from the 8 surrounding estates. The small church at Green Hill overflowed, and many slaves waited outside in great suspense and eager anticipation. The slaves did not readily understand what was read to them. However, when the idea of their freedom sunk in, there was untold jubilation.
As the news reached those slaves who lived on those estates, Willis Freeman, Bodkins, out Table Hill Garden, I don't know how far up onto Monk's Hill area, but they were living in that general area. I understand they marched from that area through the brook, come around to the church, where Grace Hill Moravian Church is now.
And they were all shouting in their own language, slave language, Liberta, Liberta. The name Liberta really originated out of the word liberty. They were liberated.
And basically all the places where they ran declaring that is what became Liberta. It was one of the first free villages if not the first free village in the country, and remains one of the largest.
Despite the depth of their poverty and their fear of the unknown, the Moravian missionaries urged the freed slaves not to give up their freedom in favor of returning to the estates as indentured servants. Therefore, the people chose freedom and established the village of Liberta in 1835.
They settled, they built their little thatch roof houses, and the village began.
We were brought up in a tanaf and fire. Tanaf and fire. The house and them built out a tree, and they mix the dirt with slippercassy, and they take that dirt and they fling it on the wall and space it down. All the whole of Greenhill had that.
No, you might have a 10 by 8, you might have a 10 by 12, you might have an 8 by some other size, different size according to the family.
When the house come up, plenty of young and old in the one little house.
If you have the money to buy the saltfish box and them, to make the flooring, you can buy it and get it. But if you don't, it's the same dirt like out there in here. And you have to keep it clean. If even you eat porridge and you drop on the floor, you can't take it up and it's dirty.
You hire a ottoman built up out of wood, and you hire a bag with grass in there, put up on your bed and go on it. You take the flower bag, make sheet.
When I was small, we didn't even have lamp.
So they had this flambeau that was there by the corner of the house or by the kitchen, and they would light that and look for anything in the yard.
In the post-emancipation era, sanitation had become a grave concern in the new village.
Well, everybody had pit latrine. Oh, none at all. Right? I remember normally in the village, in some areas, people would use, provided you have a lot of land, wasteland nearby, they utilize that. So you got to be careful how you walk in certain places. Your shoes could get contaminated.
Now you had my fence up, you run, they come, you run go all about.
All my school life, when we had to write anything about the village of Liberta, it started like this. Liberta, the largest village in Antigua, known as the Garden of Antigua. Every single house, from the time you began to the village, to come into the village, had a flower garden.
My mother had one of the best gardens in Liberta. You could not break off a flower. Children pass and break, then she gets angry. My mother had one of the nicest flower gardens in the village.
Home and Garden Festival. Incidentally, my parents were always involved in that and had a string of first wins. But other villages felt that they had to beat Liberta because Liberta was always up on its flowers, on its gardens.
Early parents in the first free village had a common vision for their families. They developed a culture in their homes that established strong Christian principles and values that were intended to govern the lives of their children.
Mother spoke. She told you why she was going to punish you. She said you did. She asked you what happened, what you did, what should you have done. And then after, the licks came. So you must know how to behave. If you did not obey, then you got to pay the penalty. The penalty, most of the time, was the belt.
Miss House, go up, put a lick for me, boy. Ira, come here. You stole my tangerine? No, Mama. Ira, did you steal my tangerine? I said, no, Mama. I
And about 6 and 7, you know, every time I get the garbage, I make sure mama not see me. But me don't know at the center catch me.
One morning I was coming down the tank here to get some water. And the bucket I had was leaking. So you have a little place up in Green Hill there, like a wall, and we just take clay from there to stop the bucket. So a friend of mine came on, hey, Maud, where they do? Me say me they tap this bucket bottom your jack because it a leak from me. A big woman passed and just hear me say bottom. She didn't ask me no question. All she did, she went home and she told my mother. And then when you reach up now, she said, Maud, come here. So you they play big woman? You see big people they pass and they talk about your bottom. All right, you bring for your bottom, you give me. And you couldn't say what you said because she wouldn't believe you, because the big person would lie. Whatever the big person said, they believe. And I get a tiring that morning. And every that for so and so, that for so, and we tell you I have more marks on my body more than what marking me hand for licks that I get on it. But I still love my mother. I did still love her until her death.
I was misbehaving one time. My mother took off all my clothes and walked me down the station in front of everybody. And those days, you know, I was a shy guy, so I didn't want nobody to see me naked. And all my schoolmates saying, ah, look at Wrigley, ah!
The old generation was very strict. Just as the Bible said, train up a child in the way he should go.
Mother, he was a stickler for Christian upbringing. I recall as a boy, we had morning worship, and we had a piano at home. My dad would play, invariably play in the mornings.
It was from our mother's lips that we first heard Sweet All Prayer. We used to wake early in the mornings. We didn't have a clock. The cocks used to do its work. And so when the cocks would crow, she would wake us up and say, time to worship.
Every member of the family had a clearly defined role. There was a deliberate crafting of family that allowed each member to contribute.
Everybody's yard is perfectly, immaculately clean. We used to hold, we call it race, against one another to see who cleaned up the best.
And I can remember the words of Sir Winston Churchill, if every man his door would sweep, the city would be clean.
I had to wash, and when I hung the clothes on the line, my grandmother would look and make sure that they're clean. If it wasn't to her satisfaction, I had to take them down. Even sometimes, Miss Francis, if my mother wasn't there, the neighbor would look and say, oh, they're all right, you can hang them out.
The part of the parents is to kind of situate that the children learn to carry responsibility even before they go out there.
We all always have to obey our parents and do whatever they say to do.
In the morning you get up and take the goats or sheep and carry them to the pasture, tie them out. And then when you come back you get some bush tea. And if you are lucky to get a piece of bread, you say thank you. And you go ahead, go to school.
And they say if you don't work, you don't eat.
The early inhabitants of the new village learned how to do much with little and to be satisfied.
Can me get me calabash of soup? And me get 2 potatoes and piece of shad pan tap and like a bread bitch. Feel like one king. You have to be satisfied. Those were the days. Everybody calabash had the name mark pan them, so you can't take from me calabash. We didn't have no spoon, you know. Cocker shell. And the cocker shell was split one piece of stick and force the cocker shell head in there and wrap it that way. When you don't wrap, you wash that and stick it up in the kitchen between the water. That's beautiful. Hand, you know,
when you see they cook pepper pot, is enough pepper pot to last her for 2-3 days. If she don't have nothing but just some, if she have 1 pound of rice, she'll cook it soft, like porridge, and everybody gets some in a bowl, not a bowl, a calabash.
The first time I get a spoon, me go look some tambourine, and my mother said she could carry me a tongue to see how tongue tap. And when she sell milk at tambourine, she say, "No, buy one spoon, give ma." A silver spoon. Come, show all the ways. I want to look tambourine. See, get one silver spoon. 2 days we wash the silver spoon. Silver spoon turn like that. We start to cry. If a silver, how you turn black?
I remember my mother cooking milk soup, you know. Yes. You put in less milk in the pot, put the potatoes or whatever you're cooking. When it's half cooked, she put milk in that. So ask any older person and they tell about milk soup.
But she never eat potato porridge. Peel the potato and grind it and put it there for grind it for cook and then throw in the milk. Because my grandmother have cattle and them and cook and turn them, so the milk in there tastes good. Fig porridge all the Sunday. We do them. I had the milk and I got a Christmas bush and you throw it in there, it give one good flavor.
Food was boiled, fried, roasted.
Food you never ever too cold. You can cook it this morning, 6 o'clock, and wait until 6 o'clock me eat it. We don't have no time to heat it, we just go and eat. Yes.
And my mother had a big iron pot with 3 legs. And she in the yard, she have two big stones, and she rests the pot on them stone. And we get wood and push under it, and that is how we just get our food cooked.
One time, Brother Green lost one coat. Brother Green lost one coat. And he and Mr. Charles agree. And Mr. Charles over there cook. He left for the yard and go over. High some Mr. Charles' back. But then again, he high some back. The man ain't gonna rice and fish and cook. He said, "Oh, you're lucky. Come and last one good."
As time progressed, the villagers developed their culinary skills and cooked favorite meals to perfection.
Mabel, Bachelor, Benjamin.
Auntie May.
My mother-in-law used to make pudding.
Corn pudding, which we may now call cornbread.
And they call them expert.
The men who are going off to work, they'd stop by their puddings, and they would go off. And stories told by these people, these men, these construction workers or be it farmers, will tell you when they finish eating some of that pudding, they have the strength, the energy, the vitality to work for the whole day.
One couple come from England from married and was staying by her. They came to Antigua for the wedding. So they were staying by Auntie May. So while and now the goat in the backyard, so the man, the goat and them, meh, meh, meh. The wife wake up. The wife say, honey. He said, I didn't know in Antigua goats call it only in the morning. He said, what do you mean? So he heard it.
We also had a lady called Miss Eunice, the sugar cake lady.
And it broad, you can give nearly 10 people to eat sugar cake.
I'll give you a joke about that one. I think I've heard it in other forms too, but I think it originated in Liberta, where we would, as children, would go and we'll buy a penny sugar cake, or 5 cents. Well, you can't eat 5 cent sugar cake, it's so much, right? And somebody will pass one day and say, "It's Miss Eunice up, we want some sugar cake." And somebody came over and said, "No, Mama said no sugar cake today because your teeth are cheap."
And they used to be making bamboos. They had experts that make a better bamboos than this as a child. They had a woman named Judy Francis. She made bamboos every day.
We had cane. You could eat the cane. And while mango in, you eat the mangoes. That is the snacking. They don't buy snack like how they buy snack in town now.
Yeah, I got crazy people in Liberta. Not even a bird just trouble for the mango now. Then a mango change so lizard don't go back for the land now. Even creatures, insect, know the danger of going for them on the place. But you know when you go deal with a bone mango tree, you have to make a run. And you have to make up your mind to run. Because remember some bone catch you. When the mango tree ripe like a Mr. Bone sleep on the day. I wake up a movie at night, I'm here pop, pop, pop now. A mango chop now. And dash on the tree now. I'm Mr. Bone till I have to take a run me now. Run me come up a village now. It's a good thing, it's like a true road and something now. Oh boy. Mr. Brown run me one time for a mango today. For 2 mango now. And the mango on them under the tree. Mr. Brown can't have the mango. Mr. Brown run me. When we were old station, we pass one car now. Mr. Brown pass the car to now. The car will cruise. And the man, oh no, we fit. The technical has with you now. Mr. Brown knocked me 2 times already now. Mr. Brown kicked me and bang me up, put my bread to mango now. You know, the days the man, you have to respect elderly man. You can't run a strong man. Your people, but like I know me now. No, Mr. Brown dead. I know me get for find out. I'll go find out. Mr. Brown only need a mango till our land.
Religion was core to the lives of the new villagers. The first church in Liberta was the Moravian Church at Bailey Hill. In 1782, that church was relocated to Edgecombe Hill, which was renamed Grace Hill. It remained there until 1964.
Liberta is known for having a lot of churches. We have Moravian, we have Anglican, we have Methodist, we have Wesleyan Holiness, we have Seventh-day Adventist, we have Pentecost, we have Galilean Baptist.
The first church that I remember is Moravian. And the minister was that I know was Pastor Francis. And he stayed up there for ages until he retired. But now, ministers stay 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're gone at another place.
The Reverend Franklin Francis, he was a Guyanese. A very brilliant man, I understand. As a matter of fact, he's the grandfather of King Franchi, of radio fame here in Antigua, sports commentator, editor.
One day a week, you would get all the Moravian children and have a class, and he used to call the class Little Lights. So we used to just walk a few steps to go up where we have the little class for the Little Lights, Bible class for us.
Church just be full on Sundays. And you have to go to church in the morning. You have to go to Sunday school. And every church, the other church coming, they just have night services. No electricity. And it was good. You're glad to go out at night just to see the moon and the stars if the moon is out at time.
As a child growing up at Grace Hill Moravian Church, up at Old Grace Hill, they had a choir which was renowned throughout not only Antigua, but in the other islands of the Eastern Caribbean. And at that time, Grace Hill had a pipe organ. And these people used to really sing.
We had a lot of English ministers, English deaconess. And, well, we're Methodists. And they tried to encourage the members of the church to become better, do better, strive for something.
One of my brothers, the one immediately older than I am, who's now deceased, his name is Wesley. He and Daddy were very, very close. And we were at the Methodist Church one Sunday in Sockles, the Methodist Church in Sockles, and Daddy was the guest preacher there. Prior to that, we had spent one evening at the Moravian schoolroom where they had a concert. And at the end of this particular item, Daddy got up and applauded and said, "Encore, encore." Wesley proceeded to ask him, what is the meaning of encore? And he said, well, it means to do it again. It's a French word. And whatever Daddy said at church in his sermon that Sunday morning, he jumped up the top of his voice, "Encore, Daddy, encore." Whatever Daddy said, you know. And the whole church was in an uproar. And my father stayed up there in the pulpit and smiled.
Early education in Liberta was pioneered by the Moravian Church, and back then, an inextricable link had existed between church and school.
The thrust for the Moravians is ensuring that every boy and girl gets a sound education. Not only by reading the Bible, learning the scriptures, but be well-rounded.
You have to be in time for school. You have to show your nails. You have to comb your hair. And if the boys, you don't comb, they have one piece of ass comb. They reef up their hair. So that means tomorrow when you're going to school, you have to comb your hair. Then we line up under some trees outside, and we march, go into your various classes, say your prayer, sing children hymn, and then the school began. We just get our books from England. Slate, pencil, ruler, everything that's come from England.
There's a preschool in the old Seventh-day Adventist church. But the school was run by a lady called Mona Jackson. We used to call her Teacher Mona. We had to look up the hill to see when the primary school was dismissed to determine whether we should go, because there was no clock at the school. The teacher going before the clock.
I just love it because you just get to go up there and play. Jump rope, swing, tug of war, and the boys just play. Marbles. But nobody playing marbles now. They have the thing on their ear, the cellophone.
When I was about 5, just coming to Liberta School. When I was playing on the septic tank, when the thing collapsed with me, and I went down, God bless one guy that called Cheryl, man. Me down there. I down in Milan for swim. Boy, me down the sea and I full of water and full of shit. I saw me about down the boy. Me kick my hand and kick my foot, because me now go down the boy. And people there, and because I smell so horrible and my whole of me stink and stuff. Nobody wants to see me, no. But Gerald said, "Tal, me can't make it dead, man." Gerald said, "Me can't make it dead." And I said, "Gerald, make up your mind for put down and pull me up." And that was very nice about Gerald, man. When we done say, boy, I'm a run, go over that hill, boy. We done yamming some and some, done swallowing some, because I couldn't. Yeah, it's not easy. And so Mr. Hosford say, "Ira, me take some more water. Can't me don't wear out myself, so me kind of dehydrated, tired. I swim one long time on the something. So me tell she, me want some water. She didn't want me to come. She said, "Ira, what water you're supposed to be drinking?" Ira said, "The spit." Ira said, "The spit." Spit. I said, "The spit it out."
Liberta was the home of numerous teachers and some of the most illustrious educators the Eastern Caribbean had ever known.
My father was a little boy at the Grace Hill Moravian Elementary School, as they called it then. And Pastor Francis became impressed the answers this little boy would give. Every time a question was asked, he would answer and answer correctly. Pastor Francis decided that he was too brilliant a child to be left alone. He would inveigle the administrators at the Antigua Grammar School to have him sit the entrance exam. They decided to go along with Pastor Francis because no little country boy could pass the exam. And he arrived at the exam the Saturday morning. Not only did he pass the exam, but he beat everybody as he placed first in the exam. When he arrived at the school that Saturday morning for the exam, he was dressed in what they call rope shoes, that his parents had made, rope sandals. He was wearing bleached flower bag suit, and the kind, you know, how could he sit with the sons of the plantocracy and so, you know? And they invited not only him, but his parents to attend an interview, knowing full well that when they see these people, that they're going to deny him entry. And they did. My father went to the Montserrat Grammar School. He became the first education officer of Antigua in the 1950s. His salary back then was $280-something a month. The principal of the Antigua Grammar School, a man by the name of Jack Foote, a white man, was getting $700 a month. And my father said, no, this is an anomaly. It has to be corrected. The month he was supposed to get it, June, he died.
Education brought a powerful definition to a people once oppressed. Therefore, with a new worldview, the people of the free village liberated their minds from the domination of their past memories. Through education, some Libertans became authors and composers in their own right. Pastor Hugh Lester Samuel authored a book entitled The Birth of the Village of Liberta. The late Sir Novell Hamilton Richards, KCGN, composed the lyrics of the national anthem of Antigua and Barbuda and authored a book entitled The Struggle and the Conquest.
It was because of Peter Garden's father that they have a lot of those schools in the villages now. In 2010, Liberta celebrated 50 years. The push toward education was one of those circumstances that created leaders within the community.
My wife used to be one of the top teachers up there. Teacher Novella, Mrs. Brown.
Teacher Novella, man. Oh, very good teacher, man. Them teachers, they're outstanding. When Teacher Novella is teaching you, Teacher Novella is a professional. They have the ability and the capability. They are respectable teachers. If you come to Teacher's Novella class and you cannot read, and you don't read, you can't read again. No university that can teach you to read. Teacher Novella and them get down to the how to dot your I's and cross your T's and sound your S's. And you have to put your tongue between the T's. The word is Z. Sound it to the H. And they were tremendous teachers.
Another interesting person from this village is Christopher Omad. He was an educator too. My father appointed him as the first headmaster at Princess Margaret School in 1955. He said that he searched far and wide across Antigua and found a suitable person in Christopher Omad. Christopher Omad later became a minister of government in this country.
Education for all was one of the mandates, and I think that's the reason why the Grace Hill Moravian Church gave up the school to the government, which started right here, where we are now.
In the colonial days, Libertans struggled to build their own economy through hard work. They manually worked the fertile lands to build a highly productive agrarian industry that contributed significantly to the gross national product. Back then, Liberta was known as the breadbasket of Antigua.
My mother's occupation was laborer. Nothing else there for black people do. Work your hoe. 8 pence per day. And the men does get 1 shilling.
I used to cut cane at the estate with Moody Stewart from England, you know. Moody Stewart, them pickle bill up Freeman estate, Marish Toby, and we cut cane there by the line, 3 pence a line. It was really rough in those days, really, but we never looked at it that way.
And when it comes Saturday, the lady or the wife more donkey and they were going to town to sell.
When Antiguans were made free in 1834, the means of transport was the donkey. And after a while, they would transport their ground provisions, whatever they were able to grow, to market by the donkey. And the plantocracy decided they would have to pay for that. So they brought in what was called the donkey tax. Parson Francis said no. And he protested, he demonstrated until it was removed from the books.
Antigua was known for the best cotton in the Caribbean. They had a shelter in Copscross. They called it the shed. And they would sell there. Or in Liberta, it had a place too, at the brook. I think the church is there right now. And they would take the cotton there. People working there to receive them. They would weigh them and they pay you according to the poundage and so on.
The Peasant Development Office, PDO, you would get your payment from PDO.
And then the best of the cotton was exported.
The value of community life was entrenched in Libertans. The fishermen of Liberta possessed a remarkable aptitude for fishing in a style that was uniquely colorful and captivating.
There were quite a few persons that had little boats, fishing boats, that would go and get fish. So you had to be around. When you think Mr. Peters will come in, you go Falmouth, because he used to fish and we would get fish. And I love to go. When Peters come in, because I'll get a little one for myself. Thomas, I know, used to go fishing too and sell fish. And then I had an aunt. They used to pull the seine, a big net. People would hold different ends. You would have your end to hold. And the fish would go in, and then they would pull it ashore, and they would pick them out. Sometimes you get plenty, sometimes you have to throw them back in, because what you get might be just little fries.
In the early 1920s, Libertans successfully established shops in the village that had become the catalyst for growth and development. Through them, the village leaders created internal systems that had made Liberta like a self-sufficient community.
We had Thomas Daly, who had a store in the village, and the post office was also there.
Well, I had a scale on the counter. So when they come and call for quarter pound, and it's hard when it's away. I had to go around the station and stamp it every year. You have to go and stamp it before you sell. And get on well in business, real well.
Yeah, blind Uncle Sam. Blind Uncle Sam, boy. Uncle Sam knows the money, so boy. Uncle Sam not spend the money until we be. He don't make mistake. Uncle man, you know about advice. You look about advice. Come here. Buy 1 pound of sugar, give me. And I bring it around here in the key, you know. Not even hit me shot. The kid was saying, I'm going to bring my food change right now. If you take on 5 cents, the better tell you take on 5 cents. I'll ask on 5 cents.
We had Dennis Charles, the only man I ever have known and seen with a refrigerator, that he could sleep on top of it with a crocus bag, and everything inside that freezer would be so cold. You buy a drink, it's frozen.
We own more than one shop, so food wasn't a problem.
And of course, the Kennedys started in Liberta. Yes, the famous Kennedy Liquor World and all of the conglomerates that they now have.
There was a wide array of local businesses that had allowed for further diversification of Liberta's economy when butchers and bakers had begun to establish themselves.
They used to butcher cattle, small stock, like goats and sheep.
Bonnie Francis, Joseph James. A lot of people in between just have a little goat and they might kill it, 3 pence a pound for the meat.
My uncle, Studley Batchelor, was a baker. And then you had another man, Mr. James Gore.
You had the Spencers, who came much later.
In the 1930s, many highly skilled men lived in Liberta. They found ways to make their innate abilities their trade and were notably recognized for their superior quality of work.
We had the Brown brothers who were contractors. All of them got together and they had their construction company and provide jobs for most of the men in the village and so on.
I'm a stonemason originally. I ended up to be a building contractor.
We have 3 quarries in Liberta. You had one on the Buxton estate for a man named Tishero, and they had 2 for an estate called Tyrrell.
Stone don't look like this when they come out of the earth. They look rugged and funny and like something to throw away. But when you take your hammer and chip off the grime off them and the kind of rubbish looking thing, you get that beautiful green stone from it.
Parents encouraged the mentoring of their children so that the skills of the village's craftsmen could be passed on.
My mother went and asked Mr. James, Natalie James from Liberta. And Natalie James said, okay, send him. The Monday morning, he said, you're going new field, you're going to learn a trade. I said, what trade that? He said, mason. I said, me tell him, you don't want no mason work, no. She said, you go ahead, Kolo, you go ahead. Me might work here 2 hours. Then he moved me again and put me other place to work. I said, wait. Then he moved me again and put me other place to work. Me asked the work one of the fella, why Mr. James to move me so fast over? He say, it's to see if you're learning. I say, okay. You work for 3 months. Christmas Eve now. You work until 11 o'clock, from 7 to 11, then pay the money. When you pay the money, he say, left me for the last, I made the littlest one. He say, come, take this money and go to town and buy your peanut. When me open the envelope, $1 red more dollar. I say, what? 3 months, $1 red more dollar? When I go home, I say, Mama, 3 months, $1. This man give me. He says, son, not mine. I'm me a feed you. Go take in a trade and study upon the money. I went back. But I have a watch and so he said, look, just take off them watch. We no watch, we no socks. I said, why? The man go feel you bigger than he and he now go treat you good. One day, I have something, I'm say, make sure this give me Mr. Jane. He said, now give no boss man nothing. Now give them boss man nothing, go and go work.
Creativity had continued to flourish in the 1940s. Around this period of time, several men and women in Liberta successfully owned and managed small couturier businesses. They had become quite adept at their craft and secured a good name beyond the village.
We had a gentleman we used to call Taylor, physically challenged gentleman, but very good. As far as I'm concerned, if you know there's a wedding out, is the man who can get your suit in a couple of days. My first suit was made by him.
We had some seamstresses in Liberta, and they used to sew and so good.
They cuss me in a school and all of us say, oh, I name the flower and wear the bag. But they use seamstresses, so she put pink on mine, she put blue on the other, and put yellow on the other, so that we know which one is ours. That's the way we were brought up.
All my clothes, I made them. And, well, I had the knowledge, so I made bridal gowns as well. But, age have to stop me.
Libertians were avid producers, not consumers. Their entrepreneurial spirit led them to unlock new dimensions of creativity in the 1940s, and through a united effort, they managed to build an indigenous and unique millinery industry.
They were hat makers and bag makers in Liberta.
And they used to find these date trees, the young ones growing up, and they used to cut out the hearts. The heart had different colors in them. It was green, and on the same leaf you would find a lime green that went off into cream, and then in areas white, off-white. And they would take those hearts out.
But you have to sun them. The lady would pick them green, the palm, sun them, how much days. When they're dry enough, she have to strip them. So I get them brown. Get them brown or beige.
You have the 3 strand, you have the dog ears. That was a unique design, especially for finishing a hat.
The lady would give me a big bundle of straw, and I would plait it for 5 cents.
I, as a girl growing up, used to plait. I can plait a lot of patterns. We would sit outside on the sidewalk till about 8 o'clock in the evening, a lot of girls, and we plaiting away, and as you plait them and they get longer, throw it over your hand, and then we have quite a few yards. You took it to the hat makers.
The coconut, you could plait dark teeth and put them around the edge of the hat or the bag or whatever. So you used to use the coconut palm too, beside the palm trees.
Baby Tat, she just plait your hat. If you want no story and no information, you can observe that there are the big stories. If you want no news, you ask that. She know who married, she know who dead, she know everything that can on in the nation. Both local, regional, and she Lindbergh couldn't agree.
Lindbergh Spencer, he died about 2 years ago. He used to have those hats, and he made them and put them on. There was a house in front of Lolita somewhat there on Market Street, and also on St. Mary's Street where the map shop was. He used to have those hats displayed. He had one hand. The other hand had no fingers. But if you saw how he plaited and how he made the hats. Mm-hmm.
And Lindbergh's arm, like something say, point of correction. When you do something, you're right. It's a point of correction. And so they want to tell him certain things. He say, put a pump on, he say, let me tell you something, see? What I'm just thinking of the leave
School children in secondary schools in town wore a lot of it because in those days, without the hat, they said you're not fully uniformed.
That's the Liberta trade. That is our distinctive thing. I don't see that being done anymore, anywhere.
A daughter of one of the ladies still does it in on Market Street, Perry and Omad. She still sells hats and so on. It's not so common now. The trees are dying and lots of those persons have died out and so on. It was a big thing.
You won't find people leaving secondary school and going into the trades, like masonry and carpentry and so. Most would have gone into clerical. Some would have been into Brysons and Jews and West Indies Island. So West Indies Island was around then. But some went into teaching. Yes, and there's some hotel business too.
The offspring of early inhabitants of Liberta were also very ambitious, and as the seasons of their lives continued to evolve, so did they. They built internal capacity that allowed them to shift into more professional employment. Through their dedication, some were elevated to top positions in the banking institutions and other notable establishments. One of the most accomplished bankers in Antigua, Mrs. Janet Francis, a Libertian, was among the first few employees of the indigenous Antigua Commercial Bank, to which she gave 42 years of unbroken service.
Anyone who would come, or not even they're coming to me, if we had a conversation generally, I would advise them to try and save a little of whatever they worked for. Do not eat off all. At ACB in particular, we had what was called a golden savings, and I know I sold that tremendously because it is an account that it's like the box money concept, where whatever you put in today, 12 months later, you'd get 12, you're supposed to put in the same amount monthly. So if it was $5, at the end of 12 months, it would be $60. And so you would get that $60 with a little benefit, I'll call it. And then I would say to them, you had lived for a year without that $60. So now take that $60, put it into a fixed deposit. And at the end of the year, when that matures, increase it if you want to and roll it over. And many have done it.
After several years had passed, some villagers were well positioned financially from their savings. They, along with the colonial government, demonstrated purchasing power when they acquired lands from plantation owners, who, finding themselves in dire straits, were forced to sell their estates.
The closest estate to where I grew up is an estate called Book. It's a man by the name of Mr. Samuel, owner of Book, a black man. And then now after time, a man named Joseph Edward, he got it in.
There's another estate just across here, Tyrrells, owned by John I. Martin. John I. wasn't in the cultivation business. John I. was more land rental lease. When there was an estate up for sale, John I. was one of the first persons to jump at the business. Where you turn, you took out to VJ Bakeries, the area they known as Boxan. That derives its name from the estate Boxan that was owned by Noel Richards. Then there's another estate, Richmond, that was owned by John H. Moore on Newgate Street. In the 1960s, I think it was, after sugar was going down, government stepped in and acquired a lot of the lands from the estates.
Most of the men in Liberta used to converge in the table garden. The soil is good, so lands was, were given out to those people to farm, so they become more independent. You would have been taxed when your produce come, especially with cotton and cane.
Libertians had taken rightful possession of their massive and beautiful land with its rugged terrain, rolling hills and valleys that bore a striking resemblance to the Windward Islands.
Liberta is a huge village. If you start from Tyrrells, you come up from the boathouse, come all the way up that hill, and Evergreen Tree was right, a big evergreen tree. Then you go up that hill. You don't turn the corner. You go up to Mount William, also called Quarry Hill. But if you continue along that road, it will take you down to a place called Hamlet first, and then down to Brooks Estate. If you continue going off from Hamlet, from Brook, you get to a place we used to call it New Village because it was a new development that was taking place. But it's really Table Hill Garden. Come back around from there, you had a place called Batkins. From Batkins, you get to Green Hill. You move from Green Hill and you come out from there to where the Moravian Church is now, and you go across the street and you're in Barrel Beef. That's where the school is. If you go around the new police station, you come up to a place called Boxer. You're now coming up the hill toward the Anglican Church. You had some places like Willis Freeman, where they had the Methodist Church, was called Zion Hill. You have Horsford Hill. One of those streets was called Millionaire Street. I always wondered why.
One night they had a political meeting. ATNL was strong in Liberta. And somebody shouted out, call it Millionaire Street. And they said, yes, we'll call it Millionaire Street. They wanted to change the name. When I was growing up, it was Centipede Alley. Most centipede you could find in Liberta would have been in that location there. And in the days when Liberta had chigga, that area there was the area most chigga too.
Numerous waterways and stunning physical features distinguished Liberta from other villages.
You have to go far to get those ponds, and you just go just down the road there was a spring there. And that's where we just get our water supplies.
Liberta is known for a lot of springs. The most famous of them is Manny Spring.
God used to supply Liberta. Falmouth people would come there. Sometimes people from mountains would come because the water is as clear as crystal, a softer water to drink than the other heavy spring. So Liberta had its supply.
In front of the Moravian church is a 3-cock tank. There's Pussy Spring in front of the tank.
Sometimes the tank I run is like a sweet tile. I run slow. Tell me the whole tank and so I line up the man. When the moment till I go full the drum. And then don't make a mommy wash man there now. Because when the drum down to quarter, you have to start over. Full of drum, full and she wash. 3 cock now. 3 cock tank. Line up. Why make the tank level so people see you done? Pack and all down now. Why think of 12 busy boys down there? Pack a tank, fucking tank, and the strongest survive. You think of 2 fighting in the tank, the boy?
And then we have Public Spring, which are called Coleridge Spring too. That they claim that a little boy pushed over another one.
There were quite a few waterways, guts. Bamboo gut is one of those. A lot of persons learned to swim. That was where a lot of persons lost their lives.
I dare say Antigua, the name implies drought. Anti means against. Agua is water. So it's obvious that we will always have droughts, but we have always lived through it.
The development of the government-owned lands was organized and facilitated by the trade union movement in the village. Through its strategic directions, the housing structures and infrastructure started to evolve.
In the 1950s, the first set of peasant welfare houses, those cement houses, some still around the place, they were concentrated more or less in a place called Table Hill Garden. We call it New Village.
Good and reliable roads are vital to a village community for connecting people and for development. The condition of roads in Liberta was poor and became almost impassable at times.
After the land and them start to develop, they realized to themselves the people cannot get to their dwelling without a road.
After a while, the roads were cut and never paved. And that became a problem later on because cars used to come through on those and dig them out.
The introduction of vehicles in Liberta was indicative of prosperity and growth. The elders had ensured that the village was equipped with the technologies that were required to facilitate the needs of the people.
There's a man up the road here, Hamlet Road, Jarvis. He was the taxi for the village. And later on, Merrick, he had a car too that you could rent, hire.
Andrew and John I. Martin, they were the 2 people who had bus in Antigua in the early days. 6 cents for a drive. 6 cents for a drive. And when you drive 13 drive, you get a free ride.
The installation of electrical power brought an infusion of life into the village and a new dimension and excitement to the people.
With the roads also came electricity.
For television. When they came on the scene first, it was like you're going to movies. Right, so you find people down the veranda is loaded with youngsters, you know, going to watch TV. There was one at the top of just where some nurse carted the Goodwin owned a television. So a lot of people used to flock there. Right? And they used to collect a fee. Right? After all, they have to pay for the electricity and so they collect something. Ernest Benjamin, he had a radio. Martin, in the Buxton area, he owned a Philips. Those days, the radio used to be played by those AC batteries that they have in vehicles. So you have to go take the battery to town to get it charged.
2 telephone was in the whole of Liberta. The police station was right out there, had a telephone. And the same end of the book has a telephone. Those are the only two telephones.
The trade union was very developmental in nature. The movement unearthed and developed leadership capabilities in the youth. The union helped to shape their minds and activated many into leadership positions. The former Minister of Government and Member of Parliament, Mr. Alistair Namba Adams, Mr. Wiggly George, President of the Antigua-Barbuda Trades and Labor Union, and the present Minister of Government and Member of Parliament, the Honorable Paul Chet Green, have all demonstrated the generational impact of this movement in their individual lives.
It was the union that created the opportunity for development and upward mobility.
In terms of the trade union movement, that provided a lot of impetus for persons to get into leadership as well. My father got into the trade union movement around 1942-43, and he used to be an organizer for the trade union. He eventually became an executive member, but he was the chair for the Liberta Council.
Your parents will send you on certain days to a meeting place where you will be tutored by persons who are responsible in the village designated to talk about the trade union movement. I can recall such persons as Ernestine Weaver, Ethel Charles, Albert Edwards. They were mainly responsible for holding these meetings. We used to gather right now where the clinic is. There used to be a big mango tree there, and there was a building, and we used to meet there on a Wednesday afternoon.
The village produced some prolific sports personalities who played with tactical mastery in cricket, football, netball, cycling, and wari. Trevor Simon, a stalwart of the soil, remains the world champion in the game of wari.
In Liberta, we have two cricket teams. One named Sunset, one named Just As I Am. That is for the Adventist team. And what they used to do, like to get out order and so, punishment, they charge you a shilling, a bad word. When they use the nasty word, they charge you a shilling. And you have one of my guys down my area. He talks so many bad word until comes to near $2,000 with a bad. And he said he's not going to pay, you know, and just like that.
Teams would have been invited from the city. Like those days, people in the city thought they could play better cricket. Bill Abbott and those fellas and Hilson Phillip and Derek Michael and so on. They would have come out. So when our boys perform, you know, match them with the field pro. Wentworth Brown, Devon Gilead, Winston, Mohammed Charles. Pascal Williams, a good wicket-keeper, batsman. I had my father talking about Christopher Ahmad. Yeah, he was a Minister of Education eventually here. He was a good cricketer too.
Some of my early childhood heroes in terms of cricket was Laxis and also a guy called Firmly Bartley.
Most of the guys were multi-skilled. They were good batsmen, but they could do other things. They could bowl, you could wicket keep and bat and, you know, do different things. And then later on you have like Kenneth Benjamin and then coming on the scene, building and those older fellas. Because where he lived, right on the playing field almost. So he would have watched those guys, you know, and shared with them and so on. Eldin Baptist, well, he used to be on all the cricket fields. But he's now over there. He used to play out Evil Garden too.
Ernestine Weaver, she had 5 sons. 4 of them represented Antigua. 2 represented the Leeward Islands.
The grounds will be filled with people. A gentleman named 1 and 2, Utley, Hutty. Those are the guys who can dictate the game, what should happen, heckle the boys, tell them when they're not doing well and so on. The Sweets guys perhaps felt that they were better at the sport, while Liberta, we know Liberta, happens to be the best at playing sports.
Liberta Sports Club was formed in 1991. We felt that we should get one body in the community that govern all sports. And I think that what it has done is quite tremendous.
Recreational activities were held in the village, which provided good balance in the lives of the people.
We had the joint, Kennedy's Club. There was this fella by the name of Ishmael. And there was another man too. They used to show movies every week. Ishmael would come maybe on a Monday night and maybe on a Thursday night or Friday night the other guy would come. So we used to have like a cinema over there and lots of people used to come to be entertained.
There was a band, an old band that used to play in Liberta. They called Rio. And the Rio band used to play at a place named Brooks in Liberta, which was owned by the Edwards. He was a very well-off person.
We love dance because we had a gramophone, so we can put it on any time. Sister, them foot in a lazy.
Where Yasosa is, where the bakery is. When I was growing up, they used to call that area the Sportsman Angle. That used to be a dance hall. So weekends and so a lot of action used to be there. Dancing, people coming from all over Antigua for dancing. And there used to be a jukebox in there because young fellas used to be attracted. How this thing make the noise, you know? Somebody throwing money and hear man singing and so on. It used to be fascinating.
The profile of Liberta has risen nationally through the artistry of a young, beautiful Libertian, Hyacinth Barrow, whose sterling performance in the 1965 Carnival Queen competition ranked her above all other contestants.
There was no carnival in my day. It's recently, a few years, they started having carnival.
I was Carnival Queen and Village Queen in 1965. One day, Mr. Daly, who was in charge in the community, sent to call me at home. And when I went to him, there I met Miss Yvonne McGinley and Miss Ruth Ambrose. And they told me it would be nice if I entered the Village Queen competition. At that time, they did not have pageants. I said yes. Then I went into St. John's at the Antigua Tourist Board. I met Mrs. Myrna Kelsick, and I was taught very well. And I obeyed what I was taught. And I was very humble, and I learned. My prize trip was to go to London, England, on BOAC.
And I used to go to carnival, but I stopped because the ladies and them went too rough. Ladies are supposed to do themselves. So, look at your body is the temple of the Lord.
In Liberta, we used to have two steel bands. One named Jungle Force and Black Eagle.
The Black Eagle steel band, Wilbert Richard is my cousin from Halcyon. They have a shop down there, and we all was together, and he said, tell me make you go build a band.
The Black Eagle, I want to do rough arm thing, steel band. Jungle Force, they play more gospel. Hymns and different things are really good. But when the two steel bands get together, they kind of clash together. So I used to be the bouncer for Jungle Force. So in front, when they clash together, sometimes one shift and the other one go over the business, and then sometimes when they really clash, they fight, you know. Just like, no, but after a while, everybody still get back good friends and so.
In those days, you were not allowed as girls. My granny would think not decent girls don't go to pan houses. So when they were playing, we used to hide, get away, say we are going down to the same tank in front of the church for water, leave your bucket there, and go on in the alley, the Centipede Alley, to listen to the music, and she get rid of it. When you go home, she don't say a thing. You go home and you bathe, and you're ready to go sleep, and you get whopped.
The early families in Liberta placed significant value on their children's relationships and therefore instituted precautionary measures to safeguard them. Although the surveillance was not well received by most children, many of these relationships ultimately led to covenant bonding.
I don't think any of our parents wanted their girls to be associated with boys. A boy liked you and you went to Bible class and you were talking to him outside, but as soon as you see someone coming, you and get out the way before they see you, because certainly they're going up to say, I saw Janet down the road talking to so-and-so. It was as simple as that. They're not waiting to hear what you were talking about. They had the idea that when once a girl and a boy are engaged in conversation, then you know what is going to happen.
You send them little notes. You'd be writing notes, letters, and love poems. Like my heart is like a cabbage all divided in two. The leaves I give to others, the heart I keep for you, and things like that. And then the poor gentleman, a young man, who believed that he could not live without this girl, would be bold enough to write a letter, taking it to the parents, asking that he would be able to visit the house and visit the young lady, or to take her to a concert or so on.
And if them parents agree and maybe like you, because not everybody they're going to like, they might answer back the letter. I either answer it back or send and call you and talk to you. But if you don't look in their sight, they make me hear nobody say they talk to that when you go down the road, That's all you get. And you can't, even if he coming down the road and you going down and you see him, you can't even do that.
Wedding in Liberta was almost everybody came.
It's not necessarily buying you, going into town and buying gifts, because they were poor. So what would they do? Send you eggs. They would send, the fowls would lay, they would put them in sand, and every day they would turn them. And when they got a few dozens, they would send them to you. With the wedding day would be nearing, the older women or friends of the family would come and help to wash the butter, because the butter was so salt. And they would wash the butter for days and days and days. And then when it's time for making the cake after the wedding, it would be nearer still. You would find the homes were so busy. People coming in to help. They bring this, bring that. Some families would cook food, kill goats or so, and the more affluent ones might kill a cow.
One of my godmother, she gave me as a present a little goat and a bag of coals.
As families expanded in the village, healthcare became a top priority. Therefore, a reliable system was established for the newborn. This process was managed by the village nurses and midwives, who utilized a very methodical approach in the execution of their responsibilities.
My aunt, she was Nurse Howell, and when people having the babies, they would come and call her, and then she prepared the things, and some will wait for her, and some she'll tell them, okay, go ahead, I'll come.
My mother's name is Miriam Augustus Carter Nee Davis. She nursed from the age of 16. You had to seek the nurse's help first, and then the nurse, if she could not cope, if there was a problem, she would then send you or take you to the hospital. But you were not allowed to go to the hospital unless prior to your delivery, they detected that there would have been a problem.
Mrs. Ann Patricia Martin Daly, she had a store. Births, deaths, and that sort of thing were registered right at her business place there.
Notwithstanding the meticulous execution of their duties, occasionally Nurses and midwives were held accountable when registration issues surfaced at the wrong time.
It would be the midwife who would have taken all the information from the mother and then take them to Mrs. Daly's. People only discovered all the problems with their names and the date of birth when they were ready to travel. You must have your birth certificate. And when they go, you have known this person for all his life as Peter. And then he goes and Peter does not exist anywhere.
Every Saturday, the district nurses had to go to the clinic in town. She walked with this bag, this gray bag she had, with everything in there and her book. Very businesslike. The villagers loved Mother. They would pass and they would call Nurse Carter. Everything for them was Nurse Carter.
When I was having my children, there was Holberton, but I had relied on the services of the midwife at the time, Nurse Miriam Carter. She was a darling. Had no problems with that. Anything to make you happy, comfortable, you're allowed to do it. A sweet lady. Peace be to her.
General health care services in the village were limited, so death was inevitable. However, families in Liberta managed to handle the grief of losing their deceased loved ones through the support of the community, who unreservedly joined in the grieving process.
We never have funeral home. A man named Mr. Henry, he does make the coffin and them. These men make the coffin right in the yard there for you, you know. But if you're dead today, you're buried tomorrow, because them days when a person die, what they used to do, they used to go down to the beach and get a bucket of salt water. So they cover the dead in, they wet that, keep wetting it with the salt water until the day of the funeral. But the night before the funeral, they have a thing they call a wake. And plenty people does go to this wake, and they does have chocolate, tea, and biscuit. They give you get that to eat and drink, and just have it right down from this afternoon right down until tomorrow morning. And 6 people lift it and carry it to the church and to the cemetery.
Some villagers held dearly to superstitious beliefs and practices back in the day.
Liberta people used to like to talk about Obia too.
Liberta people was famous for that. So when they pass, you smell something. My God. They used to give Liberta people bad name.
See, we just get a piece of broke one back there, and a beer back there or something. And see, we just do so. Anyway, you go to the old road, you go to the English shop, you go to a piece of pipe. You see that? You see the guy in the house? Hey, miles over the house. The mountain, hill, and valley. But you just want to look through a little glass. And he can see everything.
And they used to say certain people in the village, they used to stay clear of.
You know how it was sore foot. Then I said, well, something the man here come out, big foot, red mouth. And I kind of so.
They didn't do my children nothing, because they was afraid me say me work up there too. And me say, yes. Me then, work up upon you. Go up there. Take them out and keep them down.
The epic migration and journey of the Liberta people from slavery, emancipation, colonialism, and modernization was a dynamic process. Without a doubt, Libertans have a legacy with which they can declare, "Hitherto hath the Lord helped us."
My advice to the youth would be to stay positive. Look for positive influences and follow those. There are never negatives around. You can't get it from that. But you're sensible enough to know the negatives and to stay clear of those.
Seek Christ first, and everything will come after. Right? But the youth and them today, some will heed, but some will not. But you have to have patience with them and talk to them. Tell them Jesus loves them. Have manners with their parents. And they must love their brother, their sister, and their brother. And some of them don't love their brother and their sister.
Value old people. You learn a lot about life and about mistakes that they can avoid.
Always strive for upward mobility. Don't settle for any second best. Do not allow others to deter them. Okay? Respect for self and for others is what they would have to cultivate. And I believe any youngster to whom I will speak and say that to them, they're not susceptible to it, then I'm afraid that they are heading down the same slippery path as some of them are now heading down that slippery path. With the ills of the society, drugs, the party. Nothing's wrong with party, you can have a little fun now and then. Right? The social ills, rape, pornography, and all of those social things that are happening on the internet, right? The Facebook, that distracts them, that they should seek to fill that gap with something meaningful. What happened to books nowadays? Nobody want to read books. What happened to going to school and want to go on to college and university? What you have in your head, nobody can take it from you. If you don't have it, somebody's going to do it for you. And whatever they tell you, you're going to believe them.
Everybody wants 16 and 18 subjects for the children and so on. All of them ain't going to get it. And it is very important that we give them the opportunity to participate in something that they love, something that they want to do. Let them live their life. And what I want is that the parents in this community, if he's not doing well at maths, spend some more time with him maybe. Get someone to come in and help him do maths. Don't stop him from playing sports, because that could be something that could just trigger some rebelliousness and that sort of stuff. So I'm saying to them, they can do both. We just have to make sure they manage their time.
There's so many opportunities out there for them today. They are able to access lots of things we were not able to access. Try to do what others do, but not with the idea of imitating them to be like them, because they're precious.
Children must learn to encourage themselves, even though they say done, and even though they say lazy, and even though they don't take on the kind of fault and the kind of criticism that people take. We, the big one, have to learn that too. No matter where you be, I even fail and fall and stumble, still get up and go again. Encourage yourself.